Boy, it feels good to be back. Welcome into another edition of Laker Connections, your home for all things Laker sports. I'm Aaron Valentino.
And I'm Brian Rudman. We'll start the show the way we always do with This Week in Laker Sports. Aaron and I will break down all the highlights, stories, and stats from the past week of action. Aaron, why don't you start us off with some women's hockey?
Absolutely, Brian. On Saturday, the Oswego State Lakers took on the number one team in the country in the Plattsburgh Cardinals in the new HL championship game. Oswego fell to Plattsburgh by a final score of 6-1. The lone Laker goal was scored by Philomena Taggart, and Rachel Farmer had a whopping 49 saves in the contest. So, Brian, what did we see from the Lakers in the championship game?
Well, it's a tough contest to play when you got to go visit the number one team in the nation. So ultimately, no shame in losing this one. Plattsburgh, a phenomenal team, no doubt about it. And despite giving up 6 goals, Rachel Farmer had a phenomenal game, 49 saves. When you get faced with 55 shots, there's not much you can do about it. Some of them are going to go in. But looking at this season as a whole now for this team, a really good one. A lot of positives. 6-win improvement over last year. Hosted a new HL playoff game for the first time in program history. And they had very good freshman play, particularly from Megan Teachout. Led the team in points and goals, won new HL Rookie of the Year. She deserved it. If there's anything that the Plattsburgh program did wrong, it's not getting Megan Teachout to go to Plattsburgh and play for them, because she's going to cause problems for them in the future.
Yeah, getting back to Plattsburgh game for a second, sometimes when you play the number one team in the country, you just play the number one team in the country. 55 shots on goal is unheard of, and Rachel Farmer saving 49 of them is incredible. But shout out to Lakers, a solid season. Like you said, 6-win improvement. Hosting a playoff game in MCC for the first time in the program's history, whether it's the new HL playoffs or the SUNYAC playoffs. So shout out to Mark Digby, who came in as assistant coach this year, for getting them. And of course, Megan Teachout, the star of this year's season. 29, 16, 13, that's points, assists, and goals. She led the team in all 3. Congratulations to her. I'm really looking forward to next season for the Lakers, even with Kate Randazzo and Rachel Farmer leaving. But the future is bright for the Oswego women's hockey team.
Yeah, bright future for the Lakers on the ice. But now let's move to the diamond, as the Lakers had an up-and-down weekend down in Pennsylvania. Oswego started off the weekend with a tough loss to Salve Regina by a score of 10-7, but they bounced back strong the next day when the Lakers swept a doubleheader against Arcadia by scores of 4-3 and 6-4. So, Aaron, what did you think of their performance over this last weekend?
Well, Salve Regina is actually very good. They're 3-0 so far in the season. They're scoring 11 runs a game. So that offense is, just absolutely on fire at this point. So it was nice to see the Lakers keep pace with them. They lost that game 10-7, I believe. But as for the Arcadia games, good for the Lakers to get 2 wins there. Arcadia is struggling so far this season. They're 5-7 on the year. The Lakers are better than that. They're 6-3. They went out, they won those 2 games and won them pretty well. We've talked about the pitching a lot in the season, and it's kind of been less than what the Lakers would want at this point. But they held them to not that many runs. And Lucas Olson, he just continues to rip the cover off the ball. 394 so far in the season with an OPS of 119-4. That's absolutely incredible. Lakers are off to a great start this season, 6-3 so far, and first in the SUNYAC, but no conference games yet. But still, a solid start for them.
Like you said, good start, but the biggest thing that I take away from this weekend is in the game that they lost. They fell behind by 3 runs in the first inning. Their starting pitcher, Jake Terrell, gave up 7 overall. That's something that really can't happen, especially those 3 runs in the first inning. When you're putting yourself in a 3-run hole early on, it's always going to be tough. That's something you can't do, especially when you look at SUNYAC play and you start to face teams like Cortland, who's the number 1 team coming in. They were the number 1 team going into the tournament last year. So a very good team that they're going to have to face, and you got to get that starting pitching turned around. But you look at the next day against Arcadia, great bounce back, took care of business against a team which, let's be honest, they really should have, and they did. So overall, good weekend for the Lakers.
Yeah, absolutely good weekend for the Lakers. And this past weekend, the Oswego State men's lacrosse team had 2 non-conference games against the Morrisville Mustangs and the Clarkson Golden Knights. The Lakers defeated the Mustangs by a final score of 12-5, but fell to the Golden Knights yesterday, 15-5, ending the Lakers' winning streak at 3. So, Brian, Lakers, despite the 15-5 loss, they're still off to a pretty good start so far this year.
Absolutely. You talk about that Morrisville game, a pretty good start. They had 34 shots on goal, 12-5 win. Overall, a pretty good day for the Lakers. But looking at that loss to Clarkson, the biggest problem, just like with the baseball team, they fell behind. They fell behind 8-0 early, didn't score until the second half. So going into halftime, it was 8-0. When you allow 50 shots, it's not going to go well. The Lakers, They look pretty good early on, though. 3-1, obviously went into that Clarkson game with a 3-game win streak. Got a couple home games coming up. We'll talk about them later in the show. So ultimately, not the result you want, but Clarkson, a very good team. You got to turn it around, though. You got to get off to a better start if you hope to win these competitive games.
Well, the Lakers were on a 3-game winning streak before they ran into Clarkson, who is also 3-1 so far on the season, and Clarkson is scoring 17 goals per game, in their wins this season. So that offense is absolutely on fire. But in the Morrisville game, Kevin O'Donnell, he continued to put on a show. 18 saves in that one, 23 saves overall in these 2 games. He's absolutely on fire like he was last season. Hey, that save percentage, it's still over 60%, which is really good. I know he wants to reach that mark this season. But these non-conference games, no points in these conferences, and it doesn't, make a difference toward the SUNYAC playoffs. So they're kind of a chance to see how everyone's playing so far, how everyone's going to perform. And the Lakers are doing just that. 3-1. I'm pretty sure Kevin O'Donnell and company, they're happy with that record.
Absolutely. You look at these non-conference games early in the season, you talk about them not really having effect on that SUNYAC tournament, but it's a great way, especially early, especially with everything that's going on right now. You got to get it in while you can. You got to knock the rust off heading into SUNYAC play. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, it's time for spring break, but that does not mean a vacation for the Lakers. We'll take a look at the week ahead. You're watching Laker Connections on WTOP 10.
Welcome back to Laker Connections. It's now time for the week ahead. Brian and I will take a look at the biggest matchups in the upcoming week for the Lakers and give you our thoughts on what it's going to take for Oswego to come out on top. Brian, let's start with some men's lacrosse.
Absolutely. Let's get to it. Starting off with the men's lacrosse team, the Oswego State Lakers will start things off with a matchup against St. John's Fisher on Saturday at home before taking a trip down to Long Island for a matchup with the St. Joseph's College. The Lakers hope to bounce back following their tough loss against Clarkson yesterday. Aaron, what can we expect out of the Lakers this week?
The Lakers can win both of these games, but St. John Fisher, their only loss on the year comes to number 7, Dienson College. And they score a lot. They're averaging 15.5 goals per game when they win. In that game against Dienson, they scored 5. The final score was 9-5. Look at their stats so far in the season. You look at their stats here, the Lakers. So this Oswego defense and Kevin O'Donnell, they have to, bring their A game. This is an offense that absolutely scores a ton, so you want to play good defense. The offense might want to pick it up a little bit. They're, scoring a little less than 10 goals per game. That's not going to be enough with a team that's being able to beat ranked opponents like Dienson, so you want to pick that up a little bit. I would love to see Kyle Bacon just absolutely take over in this one and try and get some quality shots up and score a couple goals, get the Lakers a little bit more momentum. But as for St. Joseph's, the Lakers, they're a better team than them. St. Joseph's 1-3 on the year. The Lakers can win that game again. Both of these games, non-conference, no effect toward the SUNYAC playoffs, but these are games that you want to win. And if they can beat, St. John Fisher, that's a huge confidence booster for them going forward.
Yeah, you look at the St. John's Fisher game to start, and they're 3-1 coming in right now, but they're going to match up with Union College, the number 10 team in the nation, coming up before they face off with the Lakers. So we'll really get another chance to see what they're about. Like you said, the Lakers come in, they're not quite even with St. John's Fisher in the stat department right now, but they can be close, and that's really going to be a proving ground for this team before they head into SUNYAC play. And then, like you said, St. Joseph is a team that the Lakers can beat and ultimately should beat when they go down there. It comes at the perfect time. They've had a couple tough games, Clarkson and then St. John's Fisher. We'll have to see how they do against them, but ultimately a good chance for the Lakers to get a win.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they react to both these games. But moving on now, this week the Lakers will travel to Florida for spring break. That's the Oswego State softball team, and they will play 11 games in 6 days on this trip, looking to start their season strong. They'll begin play this Friday against Skidmore College. So, Brian, what can we expect out of the Oswego State softball team to start the season?
Well, I'm actually really interested to see how this team does. You're looking at a team that had a decent year last year, not great, but we're going to see some turnover with this Lakers team. First of all, can they get off to a hot start? You take a look at their stats from last year. That's in conference, all of that. So, a lot of power, not the best average, decent ERA within the conference, 10 teams in the SUNYAC for softball. So they were kind of middle of the pack in most things. But looking at what this team's going to do this year, can they get off to a hot start? They lost their first 3 games last year, got off to a 2-8 start in their first 10. So that's a big question mark. Can they get off to a better start this year down in Florida? And then looking at who's going to replace Emily Nolden, batted .411 last year, led the team. She was second on the team in RBIs and in home runs. So she's a big presence in the lineup. You saw that. They were 7th in the SUNYAC in average. So definitely some space for improvement, and a big problem if you're going to lose your top hitter. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see who steps up for this team, because that's going to be a key piece.
Well, it's a nice way to spend spring break and start the season right down in Florida in the Sunshine State. These are non-conference games, though, so it is a nice way to start the season. You get to go to Florida on spring break with all your friends, and you get to play a little bit of softball, which is always nice. No effect toward the SUNYAC playoffs, though, but 11 games in 6 days is a lot. So you want to make sure you kind of pace yourself. In these games. It's going to be hot down there. It's been cold it's been cold all year up here in Oswego, so it's going to be interesting to see how they rack that. But 11-7 last year, I think they can improve on that. 5th in the SUNYAC. I also think they can, improve on that. But that's a lot of softball to be played over spring break. Really interested to see how they react.
Yeah, we'll definitely see how they get off to their start. Moving back now to the lacrosse field, as the women's lacrosse team will also have a busy week, facing off with Utica College on Saturday at the Laker Turf before taking a road trip to Rochester to face off with St. John's Fisher College 1 week from today. So Aaron, what can we expect out of the Lakers this week?
Well, both these teams are very good. This is actually a very big test for the Oswego State women's lacrosse team. Utica is 4-0 on the season, scoring 17 goals per game. And St. John Fisher, they might even be better. They're 3-0 so far on the season. You look at the three-team comparison. St. John Fisher is 2-0, but they're averaging 20.5 goals per game. That's absolutely insane. Utica, though, they're having some problem with turnovers. They're giving up 22.3 turnovers per game. So Lakers, they can win these games. Obviously, St. John Fisher is going to be tough. It looks like they're going to be ranked next week after beating the 23rd best team in the country in Cortland today by a final score of 9-5. But it's a big test. I'm really interested to see how they react. You want to make sure you're getting back on defense and you're taking quality shots.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing, as you saw there, is St. John Fisher. They score a lot, they shoot a lot, and so does Utica. So for the Lakers, Eliana Sanchez, that senior goalie, she's going to have to come up big. She was 3rd all-team SUNYAC last year. She's going to have to be a big piece for this Lakers team if they want to make a run in the SUNYAC this year, and if they want to stay competitive in these games against teams who will probably be ranked at some point or another. So she's going to have to come up big for this Lakers squad this week in order for them to get wins. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, Aaron and I will break down the SUNYAC final in men's hockey and more. You're watching Laker Connections on WTOP 10. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to Laker Connections. The Oswego State men's hockey team had their SUNYAC championship game this week. Let's take a look as the Lakers went down to Geneseo for the SUNYAC final, but fell to the Geneseo Ice Knights by a score of 4-1. It was a back-and-forth first period, with the Lakers' lone goal coming from senior captain Josh Zizek, but it was all Geneseo from there. The Knights scored 2 goals in the second period and closed things out with an empty netter at the end of the third period that had been riddled with penalties. So Aaron, looking at this game, what were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, listen, they've played them 3 times this year. Geneseo, this is a team that is capable of winning the national championship, and they proved that once again on Saturday in the IRA. The Lakers, I have to say, they weren't very disciplined. 9 penalties, 1 game misconduct, and 1 10-minute misconduct. Geneseo, though, they weren't disciplined either. They had 7 penalties, including a game misconduct from Laker killer Tyson Empey. But both of these teams, were 100% on the PK, so the penalties, all in all, really didn't matter that much. The Lakers played their game. Josh Isaac was able to get a goal. It was nice to see that. But overall, when you play the number 3 team in the country, a team that's 3rd in the country on the penalty kill, almost 90% on the penalty kill, that's tough to do. You're not even really going to be able to score when you're a man up. It's really tough to see. Kaz had 22 saves on the night, which is awesome, but unfortunately for him, he let in 3 goals, 4-1 Geneseo the final. Not the way the Lakers seniors wanted to end it, but honestly, a valiant effort from the Lakers in this one. Yeah, like you said, the penalties when teams went on the power play weren't that much of an issue, but there was a lot of 4-on-4 hockey, tons of penalties, as can be expected when these 2 teams meet. It just seems to be a theme. But the biggest thing is that Michael Gillespie got ejected at the end of the second period, meaning when the Lakers need goals, they didn't have one of their top assist men on that top line. That consisted of Travis Broman, Josh Zizek, and then obviously Gillespie. That has been their most productive line in recent weeks. Josh Zizek has been on fire, same with Broman, and Gillespie has come alive late. So him being kicked out of the game, that's a big deal. But at the end of the day, Geneseo just on another level.
at the end of the day, national title contenders can't ask for much more. They played them tough, and they just couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, that's a tough opponent to play in the SUNYAC Championship for sure. But with that being said, the Lakers' season is over, and they finished with a record of 16-10-1 and a conference record of 12-3-1 this year. They finished second in the SUNYAC for the second straight year. Oswego State had 3 members make all-SUNYAC teams, with junior Max Novick making the first team all-SUNYAC. With 13 seniors graduating, this team is going to look a lot different next year. But Brian, what a roller coaster of a season for the Oswego State men's hockey team.
Yeah, I think roller coaster is probably the best word to describe it. Up and down a lot. Maybe wasn't the season that they wanted, because coming into the year, you looked at what Coach Gosick said in his opening interviews at the beginning of the year and what Zizek said at the press conference. They're all looking for this to be a huge year for this team, and they got off to a great start. 4-0 at home, 4 big SUNYAC wins, but then everything fell apart when they went on the road and had that 9-1 loss against Geneseo. So not really the year that they wanted. Obviously wanted to be national title contenders, not getting into the tournament at all, not winning the SUNYAC. Maybe not the end goal that they wanted, but if you're Coach Gosick, you got to take some positives from this season. First of all, Steven Kozakowski, a very good goalie. We came into the year discussing who it was going to be between David Richet and Cedric Hansen. It turned out it was Steven Kozakowski, the guy who we didn't expect to be there, but he turned out to be really good. He had a great year at the end of the year, came in when the Lakers needed it most desperately, and he came in and had a great year. Next, Alex DiCarlo and Travis Broman have proven that they can lead this team on the forward line. Travis Broman had led the team in points. Alex DiCarlo came out of nowhere in the second half of the season when this Lakers team really got some life into them. He led them that way. In terms of accomplishments this year, they did sweep Plattsburgh for the first time in years, 3 wins against their rivals, and at the end of the day, they did get back to the SUNYAC championship game. Even though they weren't able to get the job done, you can still take some positives.
First time they beat Plattsburgh 3 times in a season since 1980. That's pretty incredible. But at the end of the day, hey, 16 wins is 16 wins, and 12 wins in the conference is nothing to sneeze at either. The SUNYAC, they get an automatic bid to the tournament, so all those teams are always tough to play. I'm sure, like you said, this is not the way the season wanted to end it, but let's look at the positive. Carson Vance and Carter Allen. That top line on the defense, they look fantastic. I'm really excited to see what they can do next year with Carter Allen. I'm guessing is going to be that captain wearing the A this year as a junior. And Carson Vance, a D1 transfer, he's proven that he's one of the fastest skater on the ice. Really excited to see him. Max Novick, Tyler Antonucci towards the end of the season were awesome. Max Novick, first team All-SUNYAC, by the way. Incredible job by him. The defense is mostly coming back next year. Tyler Curry and Chris McMillan, are leaving, but 16 wins is 16 wins. I think it's a solid season from the Lakers. Not what we expected coming into this one. We had national championship on our minds here at the Media Orgs, but hey, 16 wins. Second place is nothing to be mad at. But we are going to take a quick break. But coming up, Brandon Ladd will join us for Lakers Showdown. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Laker Connections on WTOP 10.
Welcome back to Laker Connections on WTOP 10. I am your moderator, Brandon Ladd. It is time for the most exciting part of the show, Lakers Showdown. The rules of Lakers Showdown are simple. I'm going to ask the guys 3 questions. They have 90 seconds to debate each question. Best argument wins a point. Most points at the end of the 3 questions wins. Ready, boys?
Absolutely.
Here we go.
Okay, moving on to the first question here. The Oswego State men's hockey team season ended at the hands of Geneseo in the SUNYAC championship game this past Saturday night. Now that the season is over, guys, who was the MVP of this team and helped carry them to the SUNYAC championship game this season?
Well, I'll start it off, and it's pretty obvious to me, actually. It's Josh Zizek. It's the captain of this team. There's no doubt for me. He had 13 goals, second on the team, 13 assists, fourth on the team. He was third on the team in points with 26. He had points in 18 out of 27 games. They only lost 3 of those when he scored. 19 blocks on the year, getting it done at both ends of the ice. And he had points in his last 7 games. So when the games mattered most, he was the one leading the way. And you look at this guy, he just was all over the place all year long. He was so consistent from the start to the end. He started off the year with 4 straight games getting points. He was all over the place. He's my MVP for this team. There's not a doubt in my mind. He led the way for this team. He was top in the stat sheet all year long. He's the guy that I think gets the MVP award.
I got to disagree with you here. I got to go with Max Novick. First of all, first team All-SUNYAC. Let's be honest with ourselves. The SUNYAC clearly thought he was the best player on the team all year. 24 points, 18 assists, 6 goals. It was unbelievable. He performed throughout the entire year, no matter what. He was consistent. He was always there, always getting back on defense, always able to score on offense. He was awesome. Super solid the whole season long. I got to say, Josh Zizek was a little quiet at the beginning of the year. Max Novick.
He started off the year with 4 straight games with
he was there
points.
The entire
what
time.
are you talking
he was
about?
Always making the right
4
play.
straight games
His
with points to
running
start the
mate
season.
Also,
you gotta let him
talk
talk.
about
You gotta let
Novick.
him talk.
His running mate switched halfway through the year, and Tyler Antonucci from Chris McMillan, someone he's been playing with for a while. That's a big thing. He was comfortable out there the whole season long. 24
You
points.
really gonna
18
knock him?
assists,
You really
goals.
gonna knock
Awesome
him
season.
for not
First team
getting on the
All-Suniac.
All-Suniac team? You look at the forwards
First team
all over the
All-Suniac.
place.
First
Zizek,
team
no doubt.
All-Suniac. Zizek, no Suniac team for him.
And the point has to go to Brian. You have to go with the senior in Zizek. Moving on to the second question here. Women's lacrosse senior Montana Garrett recently scored her 100th career goal here at Oswego for her collegiate career. She already has 8 goals through only 4 games. Her career best for goals in a season was 36 in 2018. Is Garrett going to get past that number for her senior campaign?
I gotta be the bearer of bad news. I don't think so. 36 goals is tough. 30 goals in general is tough. She had a great season last year, and she's having a great season this year. But what she did last season was hard, and I don't know if she can keep up the pace that she's going right now. She's not even the team leader in goals at the moment. She's at 8. Molly Beck has 11. Plus, conference games haven't even really started yet. They're 2-2. This team has already struggled to score to begin with. So for her to get all those goals and a team that's not scoring a lot, I guess kind of makes sense. But once conference games start and scouting reports come out, they're going to say, hey, you got to cover her and you got to cover Molly Beck and Montana. It's tough to say. 30 goals is tough to begin with. Beating 36, which she did last year, which was already incredibly tough, I don't know. That's got to be a tough statement to
You
make.
want to talk about scouting reports coming out? The scouting reports have been out since she joined the Oswego State Lakers as a freshman, scoring 30 goals. Then sophomore campaign, 36, 29 last year. So if you're going to say that now they're going to stop her, that's a bit much. I don't know if that's the answer here. Senior season, she's going to be going for it right now. She already has 100 career goals. In her career, she's averaging 2 goals per game. She's been playing some tough teams. You look at her; she's this team's best option right now. Just talking about it in that 9-5,
Molly Beck might have something to say
in that
about
9-5 loss against Clarkson, she had 3 of the team's goals. She's very efficient. She's all over the place on this offense. You look at her last year, 29 goals. She's a great player.
But if there's only 2 players that are
going
going to be able to score on this team so far,
she's going to get all the opportunities that she needs.
Which we've seen so far this season, they're going to cover her, and she's not going to be able to score. Scoring 30 goals is tough. It's tough
been like that every year that she's been here, and she's done it. 30 goals, 36 goals.
She's
been all over the place.
And the point's got to go to Erin here. If she only had 29 last year, how is she going to get to 37 this year? Moving on to the third and final question here. Out of the 7 games started by Oswego pitchers, they have a record of 3-3 combined. Nothing spectacular quite yet. With that said, who can step up in the group and become the ace of this rotation moving forward for the baseball team?
So I got to look at sophomore Kieran Finnegan, He's been phenomenal for them so far this year. In his 2 starts, he's 2-0, 3.86 ERA. You know, one of the tops in the team in terms of guys who are getting a lot of innings. And you look at him, he's just leading the way right now. He's a nasty pitcher. He's doing a great job all year long, and he was consistent last year. You know, you take a look at his numbers. He had a ERA in the 3s. He pitched a lot, made 10 appearances all year long. So he's really been Mr. Consistent for this team since he came in last year, and he's gotten off to a really good start so far. 2-0 right now, and the team's doing a good job of playing around him. They're getting wins when he's on the bump. And that's what you got to ask for. That's what you're looking for in an ace, is a guy who's going to get you wins. And right now, Kieran Finnegan is doing that.
I got to go with DeMarco here. Yeah, he was the ace last year. Yes, the ERA is way higher right now at an ERA over 5. Kieran, like you said, has an ERA of 3. But he pitched against Salve, which is a tough team. Plus, his opponent's average is better at 316. Finnegan's is at 352 on the year. Plus, Finnegan's also given more hits. DeMarco has the experience. He was the ace. He was the ace last year. He could be the ace again. I have confidence that DeMarco will be back for the Oswego State Lakers being that ace.
Yeah.
And the point has to go to Brian here. Brian wins once again. I am serious here. Brian wins once again.
All right, well, we got about 15 seconds before that's it. Everybody, Andrew Cuomo announced today that we will not be coming back for the time being. So that's going to do it for us for now and for the rest of the year. We thank you for joining us all season long, and we will hopefully be back sooner rather than later. For all of us here at Laker Connections, have a good night.